We start with our interview segment and focus on the new series about the Vietnam War from legendary documentarians Ken Burns and Lynn Novick. The 18-hour look at the conflict begins this Sunday at 7 on KCPT. Joining us now to discuss the series is Dr. James Wilbanks. He's a Vietnam veteran who teaches history at the Command and General Staff College at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. Dr. Wilbanks was a consultant for Burns and Novick as they developed this major project, and we are quite pleased to welcome him to Ruckus. Dr. Wilbanks, thanks for coming in.
Glad to be here.
So how did you become involved with Ken Burns and Lynn Novick?
A colleague of mine, longtime colleague and friend, Roger Spiller, who unfortunately passed away last month, had been involved with them on making of the World War II documentary. And he was asked to participate in the production of the Vietnam series, and in the process he recommended me. And then Ken and Lynn asked me, and of course I agreed.
You served in Vietnam in the U.S. Army.
I did.
And you've written extensively about the Vietnam War.
I have.
I saw the preview down at the Midland Theater last Friday. You were part of the group on stage. And I must say, after watching an hour of the clips, I think this series is going to engage the American people for a long time after it finally gets rolling this Sunday.
Oh, I think it will. I think they've done a magnificent job of trying to take a 360-degree perspective and show the war from all sides. And I think they've done a very balanced and engaging, in a balanced and engaging way.
You know, one of the things that interests me is that historians often view historical events differently. There's a word, historiography. People have different views. Is there a consensus view from historians about why the United States got engaged in the Vietnam War?
Well, I think the consensus is it was all under the rubric of the Cold War and stopping the spread of communism in Southeast Asia.
You say the rubric. Was that not the legitimate reason for the war?
Well, I think certainly within the times it was a legitimate reason. The decision makers, I think, were most honest men trying to do the right thing, and in those particular times, the Cold War was very real, and it seemed a conflict between East and West, wherever that conflict might happen. And of course, it happened in the case of Vietnam and Southeast Asia.
The goal was to keep South Vietnam non-communist, to give the South Vietnamese the right of self-determination.
Yes, of course.
It didn't work out that way, did it?
No, it did not work out that way, but our involvement there dated back to the Truman administration. Yeah. And of course, Eisenhower is the one who talked about the domino theory. And the idea was to stop the Vietnam domino from falling and keep the rest of Southeast Asia from going communist.
I remember, as I'm sure you do, the 1964 presidential campaign and Barry Goldwater, the Republican nominee, Major General in the Air Force Reserve, as I recall. Barry Goldwater said if he had been elected president, he could have ended the Vietnam War successfully for the United States. Do you think that's a realistic circumstance?
Given what I know now, I think that was probably not very realistic. It's interesting that the Vietnam War wasn't that large of an issue in that election. I think that was by design.
That was before the massive buildup by the Johnson administration of U.S. forces. Have you been back to Vietnam as part of your activities with Burns?
Yes, I've been back 6 times.
How does the country look now compared to when you were there during the war?
Well, I didn't go as part of the Burns effort. I went on my own, or I took groups of students back. It's very interesting. More than 65% of the population was born after the war. Mm-hmm. They look at it, if they think about it at all, it's the American war, and that's just a war in the continuum of Vietnamese history to them.
Yeah. Saigon, which is now, I guess, Ho Chi Minh City, as I recall it from my brief exposure there, was a beautiful city.
It is a beautiful city, and most of the people who live there still call it Saigon.
Okay.
The country is prospering. It still labors under a one-party government, but I think that's changing over time as that particular generation begins to go to their particular reward.
Final quick question, is this Vietnam War and your study of it of importance to the students at Fort Leavenworth who will be the future leaders of the Army?
I think in an anecdotal way up until this point. I think that as you mentioned, Ken Burns and Lynn Novick came there on Friday before we had our program downtown to talk to our students, which number about 1,200 captains and majors. And they were very much engaged by the program, so I've seen peak in the interest in Vietnam just in the few days since last Friday.
Dr. Wilbanks, thanks very much. Pleasure to talk with you. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you. Enjoyed talking with you.
Now, here's a reminder, the Ken Burns series, The Vietnam War, begins this Sunday at 7 on KCPT. Now let's meet the panel and start a ruckus.